All right, we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. We will be recording this presentation today, so I just want you to know that in advance. I want to welcome everyone for coming today. I know that we have both students and alumni on this webinar, so thank you for joining us today. I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items first before we get started. All participants are in a listen-only mode, and if you have any questions during this presentation, be sure to use the question and answer box to type in your questions. You can see that question and answer box probably at the top of your screen or the bottom of your screen. We will try to stop as we see them come in, but we do have time reserved at the end of this to do a Q&A session. Again, the webinar is being recorded, and you'll be able to see this again on Crane Careers, who is our host today, or TU's YouTube channel. So if you miss anything or you have to jump off early, you can always access this resource later. So welcome. I wanted to welcome you to the fundraising tips for student organizations. We are going to go through some ways to help you make an ask. My name is Candice Chinsethigit. I'm the Associate Development Director for Engineering and Natural Sciences. I'm a TU alum, graduated in 2000 with a bachelor's degree in history. And my co-presenter today is Amy, and she'll introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Amy Gerald, and I want to thank you for joining us as well. I have worked at TU since late 2013 in my role as Director of Development for Collins College of Business since January of 2016. I am also a graduate of TU, class of 1999. I received my degree in Mass Communication, which is now Media Studies. I was a first generation college student and love a college campus and the atmosphere of this. So I love working at TU. Thank you guys again for joining us.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. Today we're going to talk about tips and best practices. And we're going to go through what making an ask looks like, how to get yourself organized to make an ask, defining the values that your organization possesses, defining the needs that you have as a student organization. We're going to talk about what not to do, and then we're going to talk about stewardship. At the end, we'll kind of go through a how-to example, and again, at the end, we'll also have time for question and answers. So, making an ask. You need something, and you got to figure out a way to get it, right? So, making an ask is what some people say is the hardest thing you can do, and they don't understand how people can fundraise. But if you believe in what you do, it's the easiest part of your job, really. So some helpful tips on how to make an ask is knowing who you're going to ask for money from, or a volunteer or a donation from, right? Who is this person? What do they do? What are their beliefs and values? Where do they like to invest their time and effort and monies? You want to connect with your ask and know their interest as well. You want to know what you're asking for very clearly, and you want to practice your ask, and you want to cast a vision of how the two, you asking and the person you're asking, can create a meaningful relationship.
So, getting organized. I'm not going to read word for word what this slide says, but I do want to strongly recommend that student organizations, if you haven't already, the leadership should get together and develop a one-pager or a brochure that highlights your organization's mission, vision, goals of the organization, as well as including demographic information about your organization. So the number of students involved with your student organization, the majors of the students who make up your organization, the percentage of females versus male, demographic information. That's all information that will interest your donor, as well as making sure that your mission, vision, and goals align with the company's interest. You want to make sure that if you're asking somebody for money who supports accounting, you want to make sure that that company hires accountants. You don't want to ask somebody for money when they don't have an interest in your student organization. So it's really important to know your the person that you're asking. And then when I say create a calendar for the semester, this is a calendar of opportunity for the companies, ways that it's a menu of items that provided to companies on ways they might interact with you. So I would recommend that this be part of your one-pager or your brochure. So it should include the number of weekly or monthly events, brief mentions of the activities, the events, the conferences, competitions that your organization hosts or participates in. And I think you can go to the next slide, Candace, if that's all right. And so what ways can the companies be involved in the events, networking opportunities, internships, and employment? What ways can companies be involved? Can they be the speaker at your lunch and learn? Are you asking the company if you can come and tour their company, or if you want them to come and or give a virtual tour to your group, especially now that a lot of events might be held virtually. We have to think creatively about how we can involve companies. They really, part of them supporting you is also getting in front of you, because they want to make sure they know that you know their name and what they do as a company. So these are a variety of different ways that that companies that you might get involved, and are things that you should think about when developing your calendar. And it is really important to develop your calendar for the year, not for the next week or the next month. A lot of the companies you're going to be reaching out to plan for the next 6 months. So their calendars are very full. And if you want to get them on campus or in a virtual meeting, you need to ask ahead of time and really be proactive about your needs and all of the opportunities. So part of the things that companies are looking for is when they give you money, what is the benefit to them? How are you going to promote them to your organization? And these are, digital promos, social media, sponsored by, these are different ways you could put their name on your t-shirt. If you have a t-shirt, you should, if they are promoting you, you should verbally, recognize them in virtual events. You should use their logo on any digital signage when you're promoting the event. You should ask them if they want to say a few words before a meeting. These are all additional benefits that companies are looking for so that they can build brand awareness to you as students.
So Amy, it really hits on some really important topics there. The one thing that we do want to walk through with you today is what not to do, right? So winging it is not a great idea, right? I mean, nobody wants to be propositioned for funding when there's no concrete plan. It's kind of up in the air. Well, if we can do it on Tuesday, then it'll be great, but we might have to do it 3 months from now because ACAC might not be open. You want to make sure that all of your things are hammered out. Winging it doesn't get you very far in life. You need to know how all those pieces are going to fit together. Keeping poor records is a no-no. Donors want you to spend their money. They do, but they want you to do it like you told them you were going to do it. So if you had asked for money for a conference competition in Dallas and you spent the money at, I don't know, the bowling alley in Dallas because the competition event caught on fire, and you couldn't have your competition there, that's still not reason to spend the money on something that you didn't intend to spend the money on. In those kinds of situations, you would call and get some permissions first if you think that you're going to have to spend the money in a different way than what it was intended for. But make sure that when you spend the money, you keep good financial records. I mean, the university needs you to do it as well, but the donors also want to see that. They want to know how your money was spent and who it was spent on. So always track attendance, always. And from that attendance, you can always discern demographics. How diverse was this? Were there 32 males and 16 females? Were there 12 undergraduates and 14 graduate students? You by keeping attendance, you make the data rich for the donor, and that's what they want to see. Being vague kind of also goes back to winging it. You want to be very clear when you ask, that you spell out how that money is going to be spent. And then forgetting to thank. Never, ever, ever forget to thank. You can never actually thank a donor too many times. You can be sure that we're going to thank them for supporting your organization, but you can thank them any number of ways as well. And you can be creative about that. And the more creative you get, the more they love it. It sets new standards for thanking. It keeps us all young and relevant. And so remembering to thank them could also increase your chances for being funded again in the future.
Okay, so a lot of what Candace and I are saying goes really hand in hand. The Stewardship Report is it's a report that the University of Tulsa actually we give a report to all of our endowment donors and our corporate partners that provides information on how the university is using the gift that was provided to them. And this is because most of those gifts are provided with direction of how the corporate partner would like them to be, whether it be a scholarship, student support, support of our faculty. These are all things that we report on, and this is something that you as a student organization also should be putting together. So that is why we're wanting you to keep those records. We send them the report to show that we're using their gift as they intended, and it's another way to strengthen the relationship that we have with individuals and corporate partners. It's ensuring that we're keeping an open line of communication. And like Candace said, you can never thank a donor enough, and this is just another opportunity to thank them. But no, like, be as creative as possible. They love seeing, they love being invited to your events, and they love receiving thank you notes, thank you videos, showing letters. They love all of that. It just shows them how much you appreciate using the gift. It also shows, like Candace says, that we are spending the money and not, for whatever reason, not using the money as intended. It's a very important part of the ask.
So let's say you've kind of gotten yourself together, you've organized, you have a plan, your event is solid, you've got the who, what, when, and where, and the whys figured out. You've got a way to show how your event or your request would benefit a specific company that you're asking for, and you're ready to make your ask. So you're going to put together a proposal. It can be a simple one-page document, Word document that you could attach your mission and value statements to. You're going to prepare all that information, and then you're going to give that to Dr. Dare. And Dr. Dare is going to give that a good look over and say, great job, guys. This is ready to go. And I'll forward that over to UAAE, University Advancement and Alumni Engagement, and get it into the major gift officer for your college, right? Or she could say, hey guys, this needs a lot of work or just a little bit of tweaking here. And I think you forgot to think about the fact that you have to hire an attendant to host your event in the student union now, right? So she'll remind you of some of the policies and procedures that student organizations have to follow that are in line with TU, right? And so we always want to make sure that we are following TU policies and procedures as well as just good stewardship. And so she may give it back to you to update or revise. And then when you get it back to her, she'll get it back over to you, AAE. Once we get that request, we will forward it or include it into our funding package for whatever company that we are looking at that you've asked for, and we'll submit it for consideration. Once that has been accepted, or maybe it is rejected, we will give it back to Dr. Dare, and Dr. Dare will let you guys know, hey guys, you know, Exxon didn't have the money this year, or One Oak can't be here that day. They're, you know, in California recruiting. Could we look at some other dates? You know, and so we can work through that process together. But Dr. Dare is your initial clearinghouse, and then Dr. Dare will get that information into our hands to talk to our corporate sponsors. It's not a general policy that we would give out a corporate sponsor's contact information. There are some workarounds on that. You may already know that person. You may have met them at a different event. But we never want to circumvent the whole process together. That way, you're not asking Exxon for $3,000 and we don't know about it, right? Because it could, you know, our office can lend some weight to your ask too, right? So if you happen to know someone and you wanted to ask them directly, just make sure that you reach out and let us know, or copy us, or bring us into that conversation before you just approach it without any supervision. That's kind of a strong word, but it helps you, it helps us to help you get what you want more efficiently. So that's the process for requesting funding. So we're going to kind of walk through a how-to example. So I'm going to play the role of kind of a student organization, and I'm going to work with Amy, and she's going to kind of be a resource guide for some things that you might want to consider should you need funding. So our project is, we are on the Computer Science Student Association organization. That's who we are. And we have, there's a drone competition in Dallas for spring break, and we need some travel grants to help get us to Dallas next spring so that we can compete, because our drones are awesome and they won the regional here in Tulsa this fall, right? So the first step is, we know what we need, right? We need to create a budget. We need to know how many students are going to Dallas. We can drive to Dallas. We don't need to fly. It's close enough. So there's 10 of us, and we're gonna go down because there's 5 teams and each team has 2 people on it, right? So we need somewhere to stay. So we need to create a hotel budget, right? We need to pick a reasonable, cheap hotel. How many people can we fit in one room, or possibly an Airbnb? Y'all are way more budget conscious when it comes to traveling than I am. So but you can see, you can make the dollar stretch as far as you'd like, right? You might be able to find a 2-bedroom Airbnb in Dallas, or all of you could sleep in it, right? And you want to get down there Friday night, the competition's on Saturday, and you want to come home on Sunday. You're going to need some food while you're there. So you can go ahead and budget in $50 a day. Per person. It's a little high. You obviously don't need to eat $50 a day, but I'm just giving you some numbers to play with. Is there a competition entry, right? So if there is, how much is it? You know, include that in your budget. There's some tolls, right? If you go from Tulsa to Dallas. Make sure you know how much that is. How much is the gas? So these are just things to contemplate as you start to build your budget. So let's say we get our budget built and we're looking at $3,000. That's how much we end up needing for 3 days in Dallas for 10 people. All right. So what would be the next thing that you might need to locate?
So once you have put together your budget and you have a one pager or a brochure, you're probably wanting to talk to your professor, talk to your faculty advisor about companies that support computer science, drones, and see if there are any companies that recruit our students in these areas. And so these are three areas, companies that support computer science, companies that support drones, companies that support or that recruit computer science students. You look at those and see, can we ask any of those for money or for a donation to support this? And then how might they benefit? Like, what is the benefit for them of supporting this competition? And a few ways that might benefit is that, maybe before you leave for the competition, they come out and they talk to you about their experience and about their experience working at the company. And so it's another opportunity for face-to-face, so that it's an informal networking opportunity that might then also lead to recruiting you to eventually come and work at their company. So that is one benefit. If your teams have t-shirts, you want to look at putting a logo on the t-shirt that you're wearing on the day of the competition. When you either when your team wins the competition, if you put out anything on social media, or if the university writes about your team winning, you'd want to make sure that it's noted in any of the social media postings or the stories that this was generously supported by the corporation. Those are just a couple of the ways that you want to benefit them before you make once they've given you the money. But to make the ask, you have the one pager, you have the budget, you've identified the people, you've worked with your faculty advisor or the department chair on identifying, you put together a short one pager about the competition, so that the company knows the ask. You give that to DARE to review, and then once approved, once thought through, she then passes it on to University Advancement Alumni Engagement, who reaches out to those people who you have identified, or if you have the relationship, after you've gotten Dr. DARE to approve, you just make sure to loop in your faculty advisor as well as University Advancement and Alumni Engagement. And when we say we know you might have the relationship, it might be that you had an internship last year with the corporation that you and your supervisor at that internship said, if you ever need funding for X, Y, and Z, please come to me. So that is an example of when you might have the relationship.
And don't be hesitant to invite folks out for demos, especially with things like drone competitions. And maybe you're asking someone in Houston and they can't make a demo, but you could record a demo, right? Like you could record your drone competition as you prepare while you're outside in the Chapman Commons, and upload that to YouTube, and then send them a link and say, this is what we're looking for funding for. This is how cool our drones are, and here's what they do. So don't be hesitant to use the technology that you have to entice. And also, it gives me something really cool to talk about too, right? Like if I'm in Houston in a couple of weeks and I'm at Exxon, and this is something that Exxon could be interested in, I could say, oh my gosh, and check out this video. Like I can pull it up on my phone and be like, this is what our students are doing. And you should have some reps from your Dallas office go to that competition and see them play the competition play out, right? Because how exciting is it to see young people create things and see them come to life, right? So don't forget that the benefits could be any number of things that you can offer. And organizations or corporations really love to see that kind of stuff in live action, right? So use pictures, use video, use your social media, create TikToks and, download them so that they don't go away. And, just really cool things that you guys know how to do that the rest of us are kind of like, that's so cool. I don't know how to do that, but that's really great. So you guys have a lot of opportunities to entice folks to give, and I encourage you strongly to use those. So,
And
Amy,
I want to reiterate what Candace said. If there are things that you guys are involved with, please do let University Advancement alumni know so that we can share those with other alumni as well as our corporate partners, because both corporate partners and alumni want to give, they want to give back and they want to support their alma mater. They want to support the Tulsa community and the University of Tulsa. So the more we know, the more we can help you and help raise money to support your student organization. Thank you.
so that's what we have to show. I do want to remind you, in case you missed it, yesterday the Career Center did a session similar to this one on etiquette, on how to professionally engage with alumni and donors. And so I encourage you to watch that presentation as well, because I think it will help give you some very helpful tips on using the right kind of words and the right tone with donors. And it's always an ask and never a demand. And we always want to keep our communications at the utmost professional level. And so I highly encourage you to check out that webinar that they recorded yesterday. It'll be a valuable asset for you, not only in this kind of situation, but anytime you deal with donors or alumni, all your future networking and professional communication. So with that being said, do we have any questions today that weren't addressed or answered during this presentation? I pulled down the box. I think this is how this works. So I don't see any questions. Do you, Amy?
I do not.
Okay. Just making sure I'm not doing this. Okay, well, I want to thank you all for joining today. There's a couple of things to remind you of. A survey will pop up at the end of the webinar. Please fill that out. It'll help us give us some helpful feedback on how to tailor this in the future. This will be recorded again, or this has been recorded, and it will be uploaded to TU's YouTube site and Handshake. So, but if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and contact Amy or myself. We're both just TU alumni and so excited for what your future holds and happy to help you on that level as well. But also just from our office, this is what we do. And so we're great resources for you in this kind of situation. So if there aren't any questions, I'll double check. Oh, there is one. Oh, it's Leonel. Thanks, Leonel.
Yes,
we will get this uploaded and you guys can use this as a resource in the months to come and start getting yourselves organized and getting those calendars built. And good luck with the first day of this new year. What a great opportunity it is to learn how to be a virtually diverse group of people. So
thank you guys for joining us.